After a brutal night shift and fixing a leak at 4 a.m., I dragged myself home, exhausted, my back throbbed, my hands were cut and bleeding. I planned a nap for an hour, but when I woke up, my clothes were in trash bags, my wallet was empty, and a note on the fridge read, "You're dead weight, get out." She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, while Ben, my stepson, smirked. He threw me the keys to my truck and told me to go cry somewhere else. "Don't come back," he added, locking the door behind him. I spent the next 3 nights in my truck. 2 months later, Sophia flooded my phone with 47 messages, begging me to return. So here's the setup. I'm a 34-year-old man, married to Sophia, who's 36. She has a son, Ben, who's 19, from her previous marriage. Ben never liked me. Whatever, I can deal with that. Teenagers can be tough, but this wasn't just your typical family drama. This is about how, in the span of a single day, I went from working my ass off for these people to ending up in my truck, homeless. Looking back, there were warning signs everywhere. I just didn't want to see them. Like the way Ben always seemed to accidentally break my stuff, or how Sophia would zone out whenever I talked about work. And don't even get me started on the constant jabs about how I wasn't making enough money. There were also the mystery shopping bags that kept showing up, even though her credit cards were maxed out again. But you know how it goes when you're deep in it. You make excuses, you think things will improve, you hang on to the good memories. I work night shifts. Yeah, it sucked. And just last Tuesday, after a brutal 12-hour shift, I got a text from Sophia around 3:30 a.m. saying there was a leak in the living room. Great, just what I needed after being on my feet all night. I drove home through the pouring rain, grabbed my tools from the garage, and climbed onto the roof with nothing but a headlamp to guide me. The wind was howling. The rain was coming at me sideways. It was miserable, but I found the leak, some loose shingles, and patched them up as best I could. It took about an hour, and by the time I finished, my back felt like I'd been hit with a baseball bat, and my hands were bleeding from scraping on the roof tiles. I remember thinking as I climbed down that ladder at 5 and soaked to the bone and sore all over, at least I fixed it, at least they'd appreciate that. I walked in and saw Sophia sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. I told her I'd fixed the leak, but that we need to get a pro to look at it once the weather cleared up. She barely acknowledged me, just grunted in response. Cool. Nice to be appreciated. But whatever. I was too tired to argue. I remember telling her I needed to crash for a bit before I dealt with anything else. My plan was to nap for an hour, then get up and handle the water damage in the living room. I didn't even bother to shower, just collapsed in a bed in my damp clothes. The next thing I knew, I was being shaken awake. I opened my eyes to find Sophia standing over me, arms crossed, her face stormy. Ben was leaning in the doorway with that smug little grin on his face, the one I can still picture when I close my eyes. I thought maybe I'd slept too long. I checked my phone. It was only 9:30 a.m. I'd been out for maybe 4 hours. That's when I noticed the trash bags. There were 3 big black bags by the bedroom door, packed full, some of my clothes sticking out of one of them. Before I could even ask what was going on, Sophia told me I needed to leave. Just like that. She said she was done carrying me, done with all my excuses, done with everything. She told me I was dead weight and deserved better. I sat there in shock, trying to process what the hell was happening. I asked her if she was joking. She wasn't. Ben tossed my truck keys at me, told me to go cry somewhere else, and not to come back. That's when I noticed my wallet on the nightstand. It was open, completely empty. The $200 I had in there, gone. I'm not proud of how I reacted. I started yelling, demanding to know what the hell was going on. Sophia just kept repeating that she wanted me out. Ben stepped in between us, getting in my face, telling me how his mom had wasted 7 years on a loser like me. Quick side note, this kid who can't keep a job for more than 2 weeks still lives at home rent-free, playing video games all day, had the nerve to call me a loser. The irony wasn't lost on me. I tried to calm down, tried to understand what was happening. I asked if we could talk about this like adults. Sophia just pointed to the trash bags and said I had 5 minutes to leave before she called the cops. I went to the kitchen to grab some water, trying to collect my thoughts. That's when I saw the note on the fridge, written in Sophia's handwriting. You're dead weight, get out. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This had been planned. I grabbed the trash bags, still trying to reason with her. Ben started filming me with his phone, saying he was documenting me losing my shit in case I tried anything. The whole time, I was just asking why. What the hell is going on? They literally shoved me out the door. Our door, the house I've been paying for. The last thing I saw before the door slammed shut was Ben's smug grin and Sophia's cold, unfeeling gaze. Then I heard the unmistakable sound of the deadbolt clicking into place. I stood there in the driveway, the world spinning for what felt like hours. With trash bags at my feet and still wearing the same clothes I'd used to fix the roof, I felt the weight of everything crash down on me. My hands were still scabbed over, and my back still throbbed with pain. And just like that, I was homeless. I tried calling Sophia, straight to voicemail. I texted her, no response. I could see them peeking through the blinds, watching me. I finally gave in and loaded my bags into my truck, driving aimlessly until I found a 24-hour supermarket parking lot. I tried to sleep in the cab, but it was brutally uncomfortable. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought, this has to be some sick nightmare. But it wasn't. For 3 nights. That truck became my home. I showered at the gym. I brushed my teeth in public restrooms. I showed up to work looking like I'd been through hell. My coworker, Mason, eventually noticed something was off and practically had to drag the truth out of me. He offered me his couch until I could figure things out. The first thing I did when I finally had access to a computer was check our joint bank accounts. They were empty, every last penny. 7 years of marriage, and she took everything. It wasn't much, but still, it was hours. I called the bank. They said there was nothing they could do since she was on the account, too. I called the credit card companies. Turns out she'd maxed out both of our cards just days before kicking me out. Meanwhile, my calls and texts went unanswered. I drove by the house once and saw Ben's friends' cars in the driveway. They were throwing a damn party in the house I used to live in while I slept on Mason's couch. That's when something inside me shifted, the confusion, the hurt. It all started turning into something else, something cold and determined. I stopped calling, I stopped texting. Instead, I started making plans. With Mason's help, I found a small apartment. I opened new bank accounts. I kept my head down, went to work, and started documenting everything. It's been a month since she kicked me out like trash. 1 month of rebuilding my life from scratch. 1 month of swallowing my pride and accepting help from people I barely knew. 1 month of rage growing inside me, keeping me awake at night. But here's the thing neither of them knows. I'm not the kind of person who just rolls over and takes it. I've worked my ass off my whole life. I know how to endure, I know how to wait, and most of all, I know how to fight back. Next time I post, I'll tell you about what I found out when I finally talked to a lawyer. Let's just say Sophia and Ben have no idea what's coming their way, because when you toss someone aside like they're nothing, sometimes they come back as your worst nightmare. Update 1. Holy shit, y'all, I didn't expect my last post to blow up like that. The support I've gotten from this sub has been unreal. Reading your comments actually brought me to tears a couple of times. Yeah, I know, not very manly. But when your whole life gets thrown out like trash, knowing that total strangers have your back, it hits different. So, it's been a little over a month since Sophia and Ben kicked me out. A lot has happened since then. Buckle up because things are about to get wild. First off, I've settled into a tiny studio apartment now. It's basically a shoebox with a bathroom, but it's mine. Mason helped me find it. That guy's been a rock through all of this. After crashing on his couch for 2 weeks, I needed my own space, even if it meant living somewhere that makes a college dorm look like a luxury suite. The walls are paper thin. The shower takes 5 minutes to warm up. If I try to run the microwave and fridge at the same time, the breaker trips. But every night I spend here is another night. I'm rebuilding my life, one step at a time. Something strange happened about 2 weeks ago. I was grabbing coffee at the gas station before work, and guess who I ran into? Sophia's cousin Sabrina. This woman has never liked me. She's always given me the cold shoulder at family gatherings. But there she was, looking all uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact while she waited for her order. I was about to just ignore her when she came over with this weird, guilty voice. She asked how I was doing. I gave her some generic hanging in their response. That's when she dropped the bombshell. Apparently, Sophia had been planning to kick me out for months. She'd been talking about it at family gatherings. She was telling everyone I was lazy, useless, dead weight. She said she was strategizing the best way to do it. Let that sink in. While I was working night shifts and fixing things around the house, my wife was literally plotting to throw me out like trash. The worst part? According to Sabrina, that roof leak that night? It wasn't even real. Sophia had sprayed water up there with the garden hose to create a plausible emergency that would tire me out. She knew I'd climb up there in the storm to fix it. She wanted me exhausted, vulnerable. Who does that? Sabrina seemed genuinely disturbed by the whole thing. She told me she'd been feeling guilty for weeks, knowing what was coming and not giving me a heads up. Better late than never, I guess. Sabrina also mentioned that Sophia had been hiding money for months, skimming from our joint account into a secret one. That bit of information was the push I needed. The very next day, I called a lawyer, and here's where it starts to get interesting. The lawyer, a no-nonsense older guy named Charlie, asked about the house, whose name was on the deed. I realized I didn't actually know. The house had been my grandfather's. When he passed away 5 years ago, I inherited it. Sophia and I had already been married for 2 years by then. So I just assumed we'd updated the paperwork and added both our names during the emotional whirlwind of his funeral. Charlie did some digging. 3 days later, he called me with news that hit me like a freight train. The house is still 100% in my name only. Let me say that again. My name only. Turns out we never updated the deed after my grandfather died. The lawyer handling his estate just transferred the house to me directly. Sophia and I had talked about adding her name to the deed, but we never followed through. For 5 years. She'd been living in my house, acting like it was hers. And here's the kicker. In our state, since we've been married less than 10 years and the house was inherited, not bought together, it's considered separate property, not marital property. Translation? It's legally mine, all mine. When Charlie told me this, I just sat there, stunned, but then something inside me shifted. That cold, determined feeling from before became something sharper, something harder. I spent the next week documenting everything, every last bit of evidence I could gather. I got copies of all the bank statements, showing the accounts she cleaned out. I printed the credit card statements, revealing all the shopping sprees she went on just before kicking me out. I documented every text, every call she ignored. And while all this was going on, I focused on stabilizing my own situation. I picked up extra shifts, started bringing my own lunch to work instead of buying it. I canceled all the subscriptions I had. Every dollar I saved was another brick in the foundation of the new life I was building. But every night, I'd find myself scrolling through social media. Even though I knew it would piss me off, sure enough, there was Sophia and Ben posting pictures of the renovations they were doing to my house with my money. A new TV mounted on the wall, the kitchen being repainted, Ben's room getting a fancy new gaming setup. All while I sat in my tiny shoebox apartment, eating ramen, but I didn't comment, didn't react. I just took screenshots, adding them to my documentation file, evidence of how they were spending the money they stole from me. Charlie advised me to start severing ties completely. I canceled the joint credit cards, removed Sophia as a beneficiary on my insurance, changed all my passwords, cut every financial tie I could find. And then we discovered something that made my blood run cold. Sophia had taken out a personal loan, using the house as collateral. My house, without my knowledge or consent. The loan was for $25,000. $25,000. Charlie was stunned. That's straight up fraud. She forged my signature on the loan papers. I never saw a penny of that money. But now I'm supposedly on the hook for it. And what has she been doing with that stolen money? Based on her social media posts, I can tell she's been using it to remodel my house and buy Ben a car. A car with my stolen money and my forged signature. It felt like I was watching someone rob my house on a live stream, powerless to stop it, but now I can do something about it. Charlie's been methodically building our case, gathering evidence of the fraud, preparing the legal documents. We're not just going to get my house back, we're going to make sure there are consequences for what they did. The plan is in motion. The paperwork is ready. In 3 days, they're going to get the shock of their lives. Yesterday, I drove by the house. My house. It was the first time in weeks I'd been back. They'd painted the front door a hideous purple. There were unfamiliar cars in the driveway. Through the windows, I could see people moving around, laughing, having a good time, living in my house, spending my money, acting like they'd gotten away with everything. They have no idea what's coming. And yeah, before the Reddit lawyers jump in, I've double-checked. Everything we're doing is 100% legal. I'm not breaking any laws here. I'm just reclaiming what's rightfully mine. Charlie says the element of surprise is crucial. Sophia thinks she's won. She thinks I'm broken, living in my truck or crashing on some friend's couch, licking my wounds. She has no clue. I've spent the last month building a case against her. No clue I know about the fraud. No clue that the house is still in my name. The paperwork gets filed tomorrow. Then it's just a waiting game. The sheriff will serve the documents. I've taken Monday off work. That's when everything's going down. Charlie will be with me. We've thought of everything. One thing I've learned from this whole nightmare. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Sophia and Ben showed me exactly who they are. Selfish, cruel, greedy. Now, I'm about to show them exactly who I am. And I'm not the doormat they think I am. I'm the storm they never saw coming. So, Monday happened, and holy shit, you guys, I'm sitting here on my couch in my house right now, drinking a beer, try to wrap my head around everything that went down in the last 48 hours. This was going to be a long read, but I promise it's worth sticking with me till the end. First off, I just want to thank everyone who reached out with messages of support. Literally thousands of you shared similar stories, offered advice, and reminded me I wasn't alone. That shit kept me going during some dark nights, for real. Monday morning, 8:27 a.m., I'm parked down the street from my house. Charlie, my lawyer, beside me in his car. My stomach is doing somersaults. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours the night before, and I kept having these strange dreams where I'd show up and the house would be gone, just an empty lot. But there was my grandfather's house, my house, with that ugly purple door Sophia painted, Ben's new car parked in the driveway, bought with money she fraudulently obtained. Two other cars I didn't recognize were parked on the street. At 8:59 a.m., the sheriff's car rolls up right on time. I give him a minute to walk up to the door. Then Charlie and I follow. My heart's pounding so hard I can feel in my throat. I stay back a bit, not wanting Sophia to slam the door in the sheriff's face before he could serve the papers. Through the glass panels beside the door, I see movement inside. Then the door opens. Ben, standing there in basketball shorts, no shirt, looking completely confused as hell at the sheriff standing on our porch at 9 a.m. On a Monday, behind him, I see Sophia rushing over, tying a robe around herself. I couldn't hear everything, but I saw the exact moment when the sheriff handed over the stack of documents. I saw Ben's face go from confusion to shock. I saw Sophia grab the papers, eyes scanning them frantically. Then she saw me standing behind the sheriff, y'all. Her face. I wish I had a picture. The moment she realized she wasn't in control anymore, when she realized she'd messed with the wrong guy. That moment was worth every night I spent in my truck, every ramen dinner in my tiny apartment, every tear I swallowed. The sheriff explained they had 48 hours to vacate the premises. That's when Sophia lost her shit, started screaming that it was her house, that I was harassing her, that she'd call the police. The sheriff, who was the police, just pointed to the legal documents and said everything was in order. Ben tried to get aggressive, stepping toward me with his chest puffed out. The sheriff shut that down quick. Charlie calmly walked them through the facts. The house was solely in my name. They had committed financial fraud by taking out loans against property they didn't own. They'd emptied joint accounts and stolen money from my wallet. Every accusation was backed up with documentation. The look on their faces as he laid it all out? Priceless. Truly fucking priceless. Sophia switched tactics. Going from rage to tears in about 5 seconds, she started sobbing about how I couldn't just throw them out. Where would they go? How could I do this after 7 years together? I just stood there, silent, letting her performance play out. That's when Ben made his mistake. He called me a pathetic loser who would probably come crawling back after a week of living alone. Said his mom had only stayed with me out of pity. Charlie had advised me to stay calm no matter what. But something in me snapped. I looked Ben dead in the eyes and told him he had exactly 48 hours to get his shit out of my house or everything they left behind would be hauled off to the dump, including his precious gaming setup that my money had paid for. The sheriff warned them not to damage anything or remove fixtures from the house. All the renovations they'd done, legally mine now. The fancy TV they'd mounted on the wall, mine. The new appliances, mine. We left them standing there, staring at the paperwork. Reality was sinking in. I felt lighter than I had in months as I walked back to my car. But the real shit show was just beginning. About 3 hours later, my phone started blowing up. Sophia calling, texting, then calling again. I ignored it all. Charlie had told me not to engage directly. Everything needed to go through him now. By evening, I had 17 missed calls and 23 texts. Everything from threats to tearful pleas to get back together. Screenshots of all of them went straight to Charlie. The next morning, Tuesday, I checked my phone and nearly dropped it. 47 messages overnight, voicemails, texts, DMs on every social platform we'd ever shared, emails, even a fucking letter slipped under the door of my apartment. How she found my address, I still don't know. The messages started with anger. Then came the bargaining, followed by full-on panic as she realized I wasn't bluffing. The later messages were borderline incoherent. She talked about how she'd changed, how she made a terrible mistake, how Ben was sorry too. Doubt the last message, sent at 4:13 a.m., just said, Please, Jake, we have nowhere to go and no money, nothing. Please talk to me. I sent one reply, as Charlie directed. All communication must go through my attorney. His contact information is in the documents he received. Then I blocked her on everything. Wednesday morning, the 48-hour deadline. Charlie and I meet the sheriff at the house again at 9 a.m. sharp. I half expected them to barricade themselves inside, but to my surprise, there was a small U-Haul in the driveway. Ben's car was gone. The other cars, too. Sophia was standing on the porch, her eyes red and puffy. Ben was nowhere to be seen. She tried to approach me as I got out of my car, but the sheriff stepped between us. I'll never forget what she said as I walked past her to my house. She said I couldn't do this to her, said I'd regret it, said Ben was right about me all along. I just kept walking. Inside, the place was a disaster. They'd clearly left in a hurry, took what they could carry and left the rest. The renovations they'd been bragging about online? Half finished, walls partially painted, kitchen cabinets removed but not replaced, and out of spite, they'd done some damage, holes punched in walls. Scratches on the hardwood floors from dragging furniture. The bathroom sink cracked, but here's the thing. I didn't even care. The house was mine again. The trash had taken itself out. Charlie documented everything for potential additional legal action, then shook my hand and said the worst was over. He'd handle the fraud case from here. The bank was already investigating the forged loan documents. Sophia was potentially facing serious consequences for that. After they left, I just sat on the floor of my empty living room, alone in my house for the first time in 2 months. It didn't feel like victory, exactly, more like exhaling after holding my breath for too long. I called Mason, who showed up an hour later with beer and pizza. We sat on the floor eating and planning what needed to be fixed first. The roof, obviously, then the damage Sophia and Ben had done. He offered to help on the weekend, said some of the other guys would too. Real friends, not people who throw you away when you're inconvenient. That night, I slept on a camping mattress in my bedroom. Best sleep I'd had in months. The next few days were a blur of cleaning, organizing, making lists of repairs. I was off work, using vacation days I'd saved up. Every hour I spent reclaiming my space felt healing somehow. Then yesterday, something unexpected happened. A knock at the door around 6 p.m. I opened it to find Emily, Sophia's sister. She looked nervous as hell, standing there twisting her wedding ring. I hadn't seen her since before Sophia kicked me out. She and her husband Hunter had always been around at family gatherings. Though Hunter was a piece of work, always talking over her, controlling everything, Emily asked if she could come in, said she needed to talk to me against my better judgment. I let her in. She broke down, crying almost immediately, said she was sorry about what Sophia did, said she tried to talk her out of it. Then she dropped the real bombshell. Sophia and Ben were staying with her and Hunter, sleeping in their basement, but Hunter was making life hell for all of them, especially Sophia, taking her money, what little she had left, controlling when she could leave the house, even what she could eat. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sophia had gone from treating me like garbage to being treated like garbage herself. Emily wasn't there to beg for Sophia, though. She was there for herself. She wanted out. Away from Hunter, had been planning it for months, but never had the courage. Seeing me stand up for myself had given her the push she needed. I sat with her for 3 hours, helping her make a plan, called a friend who works with a women's shelter, made some calls. By 10 p.m., she had a safe place to go and a plan to get her stuff out while Hunter was at work. This morning, I helped her move the essentials to a storage unit. She cried, saying she never thought I'd help her after what Sophia did. I told her she wasn't Sophia. She hadn't done anything to me. Now it's evening. I'm sitting on my back porch with a beer, watching the sunset. My house still needs a ton of work. My bank account is still recovering. The legal stuff with Sophia isn't fully resolved yet. But I'm free. And I'm stronger than I was 2 months ago. Funny thing, Emily texted me an hour ago. Said Sophia and Ben just found out she left Hunter. Apparently, Hunter blamed them for Emily leaving and kicked them out. They have nowhere to go. No money, no car. Ben's got repossessed yesterday. No friends willing to take them in. Karma really is a magnificent bitch. So that's where things stand now. I'm rebuilding. They're falling apart. And every day, I'm a little less angry and a little more at peace. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. Reddit, your support meant more than you know. Oh, and to that one commenter who asked if I'd take Sophia back if she apologized and changed. LMFAO. Not if she were the last woman on Earth. Some bridges don't just burn, they get fucking nuked from orbit.